Listen to this podcast now
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Why is the middle class shrinking? Why are people facing an affordability crisis while marginalized individuals called informals grow in numbers? Join me as I travel the world, speaking with people living in invisibility, the leaders working to solve it, and uncovering the hard truths shaping our economy and daily reality.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me, taxi.
Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there is new information on the 11 people who have mysteriously disappeared associated with the United States UFO program, rocket program. There's news. Melissa Cassius was among those flagged by the why do I do this? Flagged by the FBI in the House Oversight investigation into nuclear-linked disappearances. One of the body of the 11 mysteriously missing persons that had potential ties to the U.S. nuclear program. I'm sorry, I needed a light. It's very sad. To the U.S. nuclear program, to the secrets or rocket technology, has been discovered by a hiker. Imagine you're a distinguished scientist. You have potential ties to the U.S. nuclear secrets or rocket technology, and you're dead. Discovered by a hiker on a New Mexican national forest. Police have identified the remains of Melissa Cassius, a missing Los Alamos National Laboratory worker. Her disappearance became part of a wider swirl of speculation over scientists and lab-linked employees who vanished or died under unclear circumstances. And that spurred President Trump, his attention, and the House Oversight Committee's investigation into the disappearance of 11 highly educated, highly trained individuals who were associated with the Los Alamos National Laboratories. The New Mexico State Police investigators were informed Thursday that the hiker found Cassius at the McAfee Ridge, Carson National Park, with a handgun along her remains. She had a handgun. There was a handgun next to her, or a handgun placed next to her. Here's a real scientist. Real scientists, I don't think, go out to the national forest and kill themselves. What would have to motivate that? And then the Major General in Arizona left his house at 11 in the morning and disappeared. He left with his handgun, left his cell phone home, left his watch home. Couldn't be traced. Left with a handgun. Either he was going to meet somebody where he felt the need for a handgun, which could be the case with Miss Cassius, or he took his own life. Seems way out of character for these people. Dave Scott, how do you feel?
Well, I mean, it adds to another list of what's going on. I mean, here's the thing with the first batch that came out. They all seem to have ties to the UFO world. Okay, that's where I kind of come into play here a little bit on this story. And we don't know if Cassius had any ties to UFOs just yet. We know she was, a secretary, not a scientist, in regards to the nuclear facilities at Sandia Labs in New Mexico. So, I mean, did she just get stressed out and decided, maybe she had a bad relationship fall apart? Or was this something more nefarious? With the gun being found right by her side, it is questionable whether or not this was a setup, or maybe she was about to leak some information that didn't want to happen, or maybe she was just a type of person who had a mental breakdown. The information coming out on this right now is very minute. We're going to have to investigate this more, but it does tie into this high strangeness that has been happening since General McCaslin disappeared mysteriously, and nobody seems to know where he went, where he lived. I do not buy the fact that there wasn't a single house in his area that didn't have a security camera or some sort of ring camera on their doorbell that could record him walking away, or maybe getting into the van of the repairman who who was at his house before his wife arrived back home. So there are some real holes in this story about the evidence that police have not put out there, or the military, or these laboratories. Now, when it comes to UFOs, we know McCaslin was a big player in this. He had a billion-dollar brain. Now, how does that add up to a secretary going missing to become the 11th? I'm not sure how that ties in just yet, but it is definitely curious.
I wonder how they're going to find the other ones. I wonder if they're going to be on hiking trails with a gun next to them and it all look like a big setup. These are all people who knew a lot and perhaps got into a situation where they knew too much.
Well, and that's the big thing. I mean, look, the FBI isn't going to give us any information right now while they are on an investigation regarding this. We know there has been calls by Congress people to say, hey, check this out. We've had people who've testified about UFOs who are going into take their own lives or have disappeared into strange circumstances. So the big question is, what is the tie that is linking all of this together? Or is it just our imagination? We do not know just yet.
What do you think?
Oh, I definitely think it has something to do with UFOs. But the problem is when we start adding certain names to the list, we have to be careful to see how the link continues. Okay, with everything that has been striking forward recently over the last number of months, Walter, with the UFO files being released and with these people going missing who had ties to the UFOs, we have to see, what do they know? What could they have brought forward to the conversation, whether it was to Congress or whether it was to just the public in general? I mean, if they are holding big-time secrets regarding UFOs, that we do have crash retrievals, we do have aliens, both alive and deceased. Their bodies are in some sort of formaldehyde being stored so that way we can study them a little bit more and take their DNA. It does open up to a lot of high strangeness. Now, Sandia Labs, obviously a nuclear facility, but many people believe that there is some sort of hidden agenda that could be around that laboratory regarding UFOs and ET life. It's never been proven, but it does add up to where she worked and what the UFO world is wondering about this subject as well.
Now, Ross Coulthart and Senator Burchett both believe that the real information, the alien information, will probably never be released because of the deep state. How do you feel about that?
I totally agree with that. And this is why, I think in order to get this subject out, we need something that they have been calling catastrophic disclosure. Now, many who have talked about this on the Hill in Washington, D.C. have said, no, we cannot have this catastrophic disclosure. This will be bad for the United States. All it takes is one person, like an Edward Snowden-type person, to come out and start releasing what they know. Okay, start releasing how they know, who's tied into these programs, who is the deep state that everybody in America talks about, but we do not seem to know who's actually involved in that deep state. Who are the puppeteers behind the strings that are holding this subject? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered because somebody's calling the shots. I don't think it's the president. I think it is somebody beyond him. And that's why the president, no matter who it is, cannot release these files. And I think they are worried and concerned about how humanity is going to react to this and whether or not they feel that we're going to act like a bunch of scared third graders or we're going to be adults about it and handle it as adults should. I think there's a real concern.
I think that's not the real concern. I think the real concern is we've talked about the minute there's the truth about aliens, the result's going to be we will be looking for instructions from aliens, that we will look to them to lead us. And the deep state, Not everybody thinks, well, the president won't allow it because he wants to be the leader, the vice president, all these people want to be the leader. No. I don't think they're that way. I think the deep state is that way. The minute it is revealed that there is a higher power in the form of aliens or another organization that is powerful from aliens, all of a sudden the deep state has no power at all. I think it is the deep state itself that is worried about losing their authority.
Well, and that's the big one. And that ties into the military-industrial complex. And as Tim Burchett said earlier on Fox, he basically said that he really believes that if Donald Trump discloses, it could affect, free energy and ways of travel, which would definitely take a big bite out of the oil and gas industry, which basically runs the world. So how is that going to affect things if that happens as well? There are so many major questions, and how this could become some sort of major political shift, an earthly shift, if aliens come out and they say, hey, we want to give you this technology. We want you guys to be more environmentally conscious, and you don't need to use gas. You don't need to use oil. You can use our technology, however it works, and this is how you can get around the universe. Never mind traveling from, say, New York, where you are, to all the way where I am, just outside of Vancouver. And we could do it in minutes, let alone 6 hours.
I'd like to point out that Tim Burchett said all of those things 3 weeks ago on The Other Side of Midnight. All those things Tim said, he said here first. Many have said things here first. I just need to point that out. Dave Scott, do you have other updates for us that you would like to share?
Well, if we stick with Tim Burchett, he did say something very interesting on Fox News that caught my attention. He basically came out and said, look, this isn't about little green men. This isn't about UFOs or where these craft are coming from. It's about trying to find the trillions of dollars that go missing annually out of America's taxpayer budgets that are set up. And he says the American public needs to know. And I found that a very confusing topic, because here's a guy who's been very, very hard on the government and the agencies that are covering up the UFO subject. And now in his other side of his mouth, he's saying it's not about aliens. It's not about UFOs. We want to know where the money is going. That tells me that they are more interested in learning about UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena, which in my opinion and many others are man-made objects. And what are they building? What are they spending hard-earned American taxpayers' monies on, which equals out to trillions of dollars annually? And that money could maybe be cut down, maybe be used for other programs to fund them, So I found that very interesting, because that opens up a whole different political side of not only the UFO subject, which is maybe a start of a deflection, that we start kind of winding this subject down, or whether or not he's going to try and go after the deep state and the military-industrial complex and say, look, you don't have an open checkbook anymore. We want our money back. We want to know what you're doing with that money. And that's going to be, if that continues, a huge topic to discuss.
He's a congressman. Other congressmen have said, gee, we demand these things be exposed. Nancy Mace has said, we demand these things be exposed. I'm like, you're in the Senate. You're in the Congress. Why don't you just go down the hall and find out? Why don't you just demand that it be released now? You're there. You're at the seat of power. Go down the hall, bother the people who are hiding the money, demand an answer. You need to take somebody with you. Take some National Guardsmen with you. Look intimidating, and get the answer. It's silly. And when people like Burchett and others say, well, I think we're going to have a hard time with the deep state. No, it's your job to not have a hard time with the deep state. It is your job to represent our interests with a bunch of bureaucrats. And I'm not thrilled with what I hear out of the Nancy Maces and the Tim Burchetts. It's like, No, we sent you there to get these answers, and now you're saying, gee, I don't know, I'm kind of scared. I don't know if they're going to give it to us. Dave Scott is the host of Spaced Out Radio. You can find all of his shows on Spaced Out Radio on YouTube. He's got a great website called spacedoutradio.com. Dave Scott, have a fabulous spring. I'm Walter Sterling. This is the Red Apple Audio Network's The Other Side of Midnight.